As a young child, I was often told, "You're so mature for your age. What a mature young lady you are. Such an independent child." I grew up never being able to understand why people were so surprised to find out my age and how young I was. I now realize they were taken aback by the fact I was only a child, yet I acted with such maturity. What no one realized was the fact I was being drowned in those words and reactions that I knew were meant to be compliments, but were rather reminders. Reminders of what I had to go through, what I had to see, hear, and endure just to get to this point in my life. So now, I stand here and I ask myself the question I've needed an answer to for so long. Does maturity at a young age just mean you didn't get the childhood you deserve? I know many of you may be wondering how maturity can mean such a thing. Well, let's consider a factor as to why children mature. Experience. To be specific, experience in today's harsh society. This generation is put into a world where high social status and approval are necessities rather than wants, or where argument is a constant reminder that we will hardly ever come to agreement in this world. I know from personal experience that this will cause an everlasting uncertainty to form in a child's mind. What is right? What is wrong? Will they hate me if I believe in this? This will slowly wear down the natural happiness and carelessness that is supposed to come naturally with childhood, and replace it with a confused and conflicted way of thinking. No child should be forced into a life of confusion, hurt, and deceit, yet they often are. Though we like to say otherwise, there are standards, stereotypes, and categories that we all place each other in. And children, your children, are subjected to this throughout childhood. Though this world has come to this unfixable place, and this society has torn us apart from our innocence, there are still other causes to this problem. For example, parenting. Yes, I believe parenting to be a problematic cause of maturity because of the improper parenting that is used today. Too little or too strict parenting are the two categories I believe today's parenting falls into. Too little parenting corners a child into an inexperienced situation where they basically have to raise themselves. Where is that needed dependence and care that is supposed to be provided by the parent? It's simply not there. Then there is too strict parenting, which steals the carelessness and educational mistakes that is supposed to come naturally with childhood, and replace it with unrealistic and high standards set by the parent. Unrealistic standards that children should not be expected to perfect. Strict parenting doesn't build a mature child, it creates an unnatural child that views the most important people in their lives as tyrants that control their every action rather than the role models and supporters that they're supposed to be. Though we like to avoid this topic, mental health and/or mental trauma has an awful role to play in this sick process. It's an invisible and ugly thing that none of us can hide from. And those traumatic experiences that cause this mental trauma are what impact children especially. It misconstrues that child's perception of good and bad in the world. Although the bad almost always outweighs the good, there are still slivers of good in this world. Or in other words, slivers of hope. Hope for better days, brighter tomorrows. And these children cannot find that good. They protect themselves from everything in life, even the important things, like the healthy and caring relationships that you're supposed to have throughout life, or the needed self-care that everyone should experience. These children are hiding behind a form of maturity that isn't even maturity to begin with, but is rather a mask that hides the trauma that they have endured. And with that being said, I realize I have always known the answer to my often thought of question. In fact, I've only presented it as a question to begin with in hopes many of you would consider the same. Consider the same and give your child what is rightfully theirs. And that is a chance to be a kid while they can still be a kid. Thank you.